How do you write a manifesto? You answer these 9 questions. One of these 9 questions will give you the angle you need to be inspired. But you will have to answer all 9 questions to find out which one is the right fit for you. When US President John F. Kennedy said this,
"I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth."
he was launching one of the world's great science projects. You may know what happened.
One giant leap for mankind.
But do you know why it happened? There were 3 driving forces. America needed to spend some money to head off a recession. The US needed a moral or public victory in its battle with communism and Russia. And there was a potential military advantage for whoever could control space. Why are you writing your manifesto? Technology has always had a big impact on art and culture. In architecture, the shift from handmade buildings to machine-made buildings made the shift from ornamentation to no ornamentation. The same thing happened in dance in 1965. The turning point was when choreographer Yvonne Rainer wrote her No Manifesto. It's 13 rules for what not to do. What are you saying no to? What are you ending? While Yvonne Rainer defined all the things she didn't want, Martin Luther King took the opposite approach. He told us all the things he did want.
That my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
What specifically are you creating? How do you build a website that attracts over 6 billion visits every month, that has over 6.5 million pages and is run by over 100,000 active volunteers? You write a manifesto that defines how you will operate as a community. Who are you attracting? I love this. It's one of my all-time favourite manifestos.
Here's to the crazy ones.
When Steve Jobs returned to Apple in 1997, he employed an ad agency to create this.
And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
It was part of a campaign called Think Different. It positioned Apple as a rebel brand. Your manifesto defines who you are to others. Who are you? One of the most famous manifestos of all time is the US Declaration of Independence. When 56 men signed that document, 2 things happened. First, they declared the birth of a new country. Second, they made the British the enemy. And that started a war.
And
the War of Independence that lasted for 8 years. Now, I'm not suggesting you start a war, but sometimes it helps to identify who is your enemy. In Italy, in 1986, Mcdonalds wanted to open a restaurant near the Spanish Steps in central Rome. But the locals weren't happy, and this prompted a community group to form that later became known as the Slow Movement. They favoured local food, traditional cooking methods, and local production. In other words, they didn't want fast food or industrial production. And the Slow Movement soon spread beyond food. Now we have slow parenting, slow travel, and slow cities. Slow is a philosophy or way of being that can be applied to many aspects of life. Who are you becoming? Not so long ago, the normal thing to do when things broke in your life was to fix them. But do you still do that? Probably less so, given that it's so often so cheap to replace the things that break. We often just throw them in the waste or perhaps the recycle bin. But recycling is not always effective because not everything can be easily or affordably be recycled. And Dutch organisation Platform 21 decided to do something about this. They said, stop recycling and start repairing. It's a manifesto that tells us what action to take. What action will you take? How do you make your manifesto immortal? How can it have lasting impact for thousands of years? The answer lies in the world's religions. Most religions have a written text that describes their philosophy. But this is only the first step. You need to present your manifesto. If you want your manifesto to have an impact, you must answer this question. How will you bring your idea to life? Which one of the 9 principles stood out for you? Add a comment down below and let me know. And if you are serious about wanting to write a manifesto, then check out this playlist. It has a series of great videos to help you make it happen.